So I would love to welcome you, Jote, in my third podcast.
Great to be here. Thanks for inviting me, Claire.
We will be talking about spaceholding and men's sexuality because that's your expertise, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so would you like to introduce and say a little bit about yourself, like your story, and also about what you do with clients, or how do you assist to people?
Great. Yeah. So my name's Jote-Prakash. I was formerly known as Tom Libby, and I changed my name at the age of 18 when I began Kundalini yoga teacher training. So Kundalini yoga has been my real way in. It's my gateway into this spiritual journey, if you like. And as I did the training, I just found myself really noticing within myself how scared I was of commitment. And through that process of the Kundalini yoga and meditation, and on the training weekends, we'd get up super early and do the sadhana, which is the morning practice. And I just felt this huge sense of the real way that I'm going to find happiness in this life is through commitment. And it's through staying with one thing for a period of time and dropping deeper into it instead of my patterns at the time very much being like, oh, I'll just try one thing for a little bit and then switch or move on to the next thing because it starts to get boring or it starts to get samey. And I just found my heart really called out, and it was really like the Kundalini yoga offered a beautiful, comprehensive way of activating my different energy, different bodies. So my physical body would get a good workout. My mental body in the meditations would really help me to soothe that aspect. I was able to like let out a lot of emotions as well in the different sets and exercises. So I found my way in through Kundalini yoga, and it's very much around working with the sexual energy anyhow. And then through that practice of Kundalini yoga, I came into the world of Tantra and working more on balancing of the masculine and feminine energies within myself and working on harnessing and guiding my sexual energy so that it wasn't just like stuck in my lower centers and stuck in this lustful place, but I could actually slowly, and I'm very much still on the path with it, very much still losing myself and finding myself again and again and again, but slowly learning how to harness that energy and bring it up so that that sexual energy can then become more heart-centered, loving energy, or energy into the higher chakras of spiritual connection and connection with the divine. So I found my way into that, and the men's work just was so natural. It just blossomed so organically from what I was doing. And we were running a holistic center at the time. This was 6 years ago now, and I really just like I started to give up all of these things. It didn't happen like I actually like chose to give up all the things that were kind of addictions or cravings, but um as I started the Kundalini yoga, it was like this energy like rising up in my body, and it was just demolishing or dismantling all the things that were really not serving me. So after a while, it became this apparent that going out with my friends, drinking and smoking weed and things, it was just so obvious how incongruent that kind of energy was to the rest of my life, because then I would be going meditating and things, and it was like the split started to happen around about that time. And then I basically like let go of alcohol, let go of weed, let go of porn, let go of meat, dairy, sugar, fish, everything just started to fall away in the space of 1 year. And I was left really like in a bit of a spiritual crisis, because I also kind of lost all my friends at that time, in terms of like just not quite gelling with this like going out culture or just smoking weed in someone's flat kind of like thing, what we used to all bond over. And then when that was not there anymore, we didn't bond. So I had a period of loneliness, and then I found my way into more of the conscious tribe and things, and no alcohol free spaces. And I also felt this huge urge, this huge sort of like calling to create my own spaces. And basically, if like I couldn't go out and see my mates drinking, I said to myself, I kind of resolved within myself, I'll invite them to come and hang out with me and create a not alcohol free sort of space. So then I started running men's retreats. I just started like basically gathering a couple of mates, and we do a little project on the center that we were running. We just do like one time we did a tree house, one time we made a little wood lodging out the back, and another time we did a sweat lodge, and we had an amazing time. And also just started to be a little bit more conscious in the way we spoke, in the way that we ate, blessing our food, in the way that we rose up in the morning to do a bit of a practice of yoga and meditation. And that was very like casual at first, and then 5 years down the line, I'm running men's retreats regularly and charge more money for it and things, a bit more like official and professional and um, and structured.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I hope that's obviously I've gone on a little bit, but I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, for sure. Amazing. So there are several elements that I've heard, like some parts of your teaching, right? Mm, it sounds like very natural process when you work with your Kundalini energy. That's a part that I liked, that it naturally just dissolves everything what you don't want, right?
Yeah, that was definitely my experience. And it was based around this like no holds barred in terms of the practice, because a lot of people dip their toe in the Kundalini river and then like, you know, come back out again, or it's too much or things like that. I guess I was super blessed because with my mum teaching Kundalini yoga for sort of 11 years before I came to it, I'd had it in my life. So I felt like the groundwork was there for me to just dive on in and kind of really give myself over to the practice and surrender to it, you know, and trust in the practice and trust in the process. And I just said to myself, I'm gonna try it. If it doesn't work, I'll I'll just try something else, you know. So I just started like trying everything. I'll see how it feels to change my name, you know, and choose my like get a spiritual name. I'll see how it feels to start wearing a turban. I'll see how it feels to wear white. I'll see how it feels to do the morning practices, do the cold showers, try it all, you know. And I took the bits that served me, and some bits didn't really resonate, so I left that and make my own things as I go, kind of, you know. But a lot of it did serve me, and I think if I hadn't committed so fully at the start, I wouldn't have experienced or reaped the benefits of the seeds that I was sowing.
Okay. How would you say it's different than other techniques?
Say that again.
How would you say it's different than another techniques, like another healing tools?
Yeah. Good question. I think um Kundalini yoga, what it is for me, there's a lot of things that are similar, you know, like Osho and things with the shaking and working with the Kundalini energy, and in tantric practices, there's a lot of things that are similar. Um, it feels really ancient to me. It feels like it's very much keeping in line with what I might believe to be true yoga, or like authentic spiritual practice, in terms of you've got your mantras, you know, you've got like the sort of religious aspect. And this is I think why a lot of people struggle, because I didn't really have much of a religious dogma um implanted into me or forced on me as a youngster. I was very blessed to be sort of shielded by my parents, who were much more like free flowing in that aspect. But a lot of people that have had this like religious dogma in their lives, immediately what I see is they immediately become adverse to trying out the practices in Kundalini, because there is a religious aspect. There's the Sikhism that is weaved into the practice, but with that comes a great power. It comes that we have a lineage, to a lineage of different teachers who have walked the path, who held that energy, who worked with the Kundalini energy. And every time we like, there's all these different mantras that you can chant to invoke the power and the energy of these different like gurus and spiritual teachers who were part of the Sikh religion and in Kundalini yoga in times of old. And I think it's like, it's also very like, it's diverse. Like you can be, Kundalini yoga is very diverse. It's a spectrum. You could be doing the most meditative, calming, soothing yin practice one day, and then the next day you could choose a different kriya, which means yoga set. You could choose a different set, and it'll like be the hardest workout you've ever had, and it's just like an ab burner, you know, and you're just having a beautiful workout and you're really moving your body. So that's what I love about it. That's because I feel it encompasses these two different polarities and brings them together.
Okay, that's really interesting. But what do you say is your message, like, or what do you feel that you transmit to your clients? Like, what are the most important aspects somehow that you want people to take out of working with you, you know, or out of life? I know it's a quite complex question, but yeah.
I love it. Yeah, it's great question. What are if I had to choose like a few words that come through for me when you say that, it's about creativity, it's about sacred sexuality, and it's about shadow work. I think like if I was to condense what I do down into this, like, yeah, into a few words, it would be those things. It's about recognizing that in order to experience more light in our bodies and in our lives, in our relationships, we have to first really fully embrace the dark and descend into the body. That's also a big aspect, is just embodiment. I really believe that if we don't embody and integrate what we're learning in our minds with the knowledge and teachings, it's just gonna, the trauma and the things, it's just the cycles are just going to keep repeating. But when we've like just, you know, figured it out and integrated it in our body, that's when we're going to notice a real shift starting to take place. So that's how I noticed it in my own journey. Was suddenly my body was the thing that was guiding me, instead of like this trying to give things up or trying to let go of things and attachments and addictions in my mind, and really like working with it, you know, and like, oh, if I just keep doing 100 affirmations a day about how I'm going to be free from alcohol or something, it like, it's the mind trying to bypass the body. And so I really like to work in and through the body, where suddenly doing the practices, I was detoxing things, doing lots of like dieting and stuff like that, and working things out in my body to the point where alcohol felt toxic to my body, or like this then feels, so it was my body that was guiding me, and then it's just down to me to listen to that. And in that space of presence in the body, and like the sacred sexuality work really comes into that, of using our sexual energy, not kind of exiling any parts of us. I think in the spiritual world, sometimes we exile different aspects like our sexuality, and it was recognizing that my sexual energy is the root of my creativity, of my creative energy, and that is, if I had to say what is my purpose in life, it's to be in a space of creativity as much as possible, to bring things from the divine, like inspirations that I have, bringing them into form through art, whether it's writing or music or holding space. Sometimes I start working with people and they just, one guy I was working with, 2 sessions in, cocaine just dropped out of his life like that. You know, it was like he didn't even try. He just started like not wanting to go and take cocaine anymore. It just happened like that. And often I like to hold that space for people to find the answers themselves. So it's more, when I would do one-to-ones with people, it's more that I love to go into a space of curiosity and ask questions and sit and, I guess, hold space for them to find the answers themselves of what they feel that they need to do. Because we all know what we need to do. Sometimes we just need to speak it out loud. It's like a spell. Like, I know I need to do this. And then you say it out loud, you're like, oh, I've kind of got to live that now. I've got to live my word. And it's like, he's heard me, and I can then hold accountability, and we can work with actually making a commitment week by week. Because I believe in small steps. I see a lot of the time in this kind of healing work, people looking for the big one, the catharsis that's to end all catharsis, or something, or the big shift that's going to really just alter their entire life. And that can happen for sure, for sure. But I like to imagine it as chipping away at the stone Buddha, and revealing the goal piece by piece, and step by step, and really working on what can I commit to this week to take my consciousness into a different state. So
Mhm.
yeah, and then what I find with that is then a big shift just comes out of nowhere, and it's like boom, it's locked in, and it's more embodied, like we said.
Okay, I understand, because sometimes people, they can like change like temporary, right? But then they keep coming back to the old, right?
Precisely. I see it happen a lot, and it's happened for me over and over again too. Like, I'm totally in that, thinking that I've found it, and I'm enlightened all of a sudden, or something, or I've really seen God, and yeah, we probably do. In that moment, we probably do, and it's beautiful, and it's not to take away from those moments like epiphany that we can have, but it's like, how do we integrate this into our everyday life, into our everyday relationships? And the only answer that I've come up with for that is the sacred daily grind, the daily practice, the daily work. And I don't even like the word work, because I don't actually see it as work anymore. The daily devotion, the daily
Mm.
devotion to your higher self.
Mm. Okay, great. So you said you teach space holding as well. Who do you think it's good for, or who are usually the people that sign up for this?
Yeah, I think it's great for people that feel, there's two aspects. I think it's great for people like yoga teachers, or people who are holding workshops but feel like they are regurgitating the same things over and over again, who feel like they've lost that maybe creative spark in their classes or in their workshops or the spaces that they're holding. Because what the Inspiro Space Holder journey is about, is, which is the name of the course, is about um, tuning into the field, tuning into the space that you're in, and giving the space what it needs, and learning how to flow within that. There is structure, obviously, about what we're doing here, but it's like, it's also about being creative and coming up with brand new things. So that's one aspect. And then the other aspect would be for, I guess, people that feel that they've got a lot of energy to share, and they've got a lot, like some real amazing gifts inside of them, and medicine to share with the world, but perhaps lack the three aspects that I kind of think about, is lack the clarity of, like, what exactly is it? How can you take all that gift of what you've got and bring it into form that you can share with people in a very practical way, like step by step? And then clarity, then it's, what's the second one? Confidence. It's having the confidence to actually share that with people. And then the magic of what you're actually bringing through. And so I really just sit in that place of, how can we refine an instrument of our body so that we can transmit the song that we want to sing more clearly and more impactfully to the people that we're sitting in space with.
Wow. Yeah, the space holding, because I feel how do you work with unity consciousness, right? With unity field.
In terms of coming together in the space.
Yes, because
Yeah.
sometimes, as you said, for example, yoga teaching, sometimes I could go to some yoga class and you walk there in and you literally feel that it's kind of like like meeting of individualities, like fragments. You don't feel the space as one. You don't feel like you are part of like one tribe, or it's like everybody is doing their own thing, while on other cases it's totally different feeling. So I guess that's what is space holding about, right?
Yeah, I mean, what I'm looking for in a space is the balance between the two, where you've got a group of individuals that know how to maintain their own sovereignty within the space or the circle that we're sitting in, and you also feel the cohesion and the unity within the circle. And that's the beauty of sitting in a circle. That's why I love to like talk about circling a lot. And the first thing we learn on the course is how to hold sacred circles. And so you because there's no hierarchy there, there's not someone sat at the front teaching and we're all the students. We need to learn something from that. And I totally feel what you're saying. You can go to a yoga class, sit there, not talk to anybody, and not really feel the group energy coming together. So yeah, that is definitely what I am looking for in a space is where's that point where we find the harmony together and the synergy of the group, whilst also maintaining sovereignty and our own because if we go into the synergy too much of dissolving into the unity consciousness, we forget our own boundaries and what we actually need. And I can sometimes see people dissolving into the unity consciousness, coming away and realizing that they disregarded their own needs, whether it's they did something that they didn't actually want to do because they were in the kind of the rush of it all and the adrenaline and the heightened altered state of awareness, and then go away and feel shame or feel regret about that. And it's so it is bringing in the synergy, keeping the sovereignty so that people can make a decision. And I think the way of bringing that together for me is often slowing it all down and really sitting there and creating it as an invitation. So you're inviting everyone in, and everyone in that space has to give consent of yeah, I want to dive into this space. I feel safe. You can't fake safety, you can't just sit there and be like, everyone, this is a safe space. This is a safe space, But you can feel it, can't you? If it's genuinely a safe space. It's a felt sense in the body. And when people do feel it as a safe space, that's when you get that meeting of unity consciousness, like you said.
That's beautiful.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
So you also work with men and sexuality, right? What would you say that have been some issues that men have been experiencing during these times?
There's a variety of things, and I'll speak to my own personal experience, and yeah, I'm sure that we're all feeling similar things. For me, it's lust. Okay, just lust is the most challenging thing for me. It's because I'm in a committed relationship, and it's it's still there as a program of what porn does to us, and the way that we are literally trained to see sex in the world as this very I heard it described once as the sympathetic activation of the sympathetic nervous system, meaning everything we see, all the films, even like normal films and pornographic films, it's very much like full passion, heat, intensity, go, go, go. And this is entrained into us of like, that's how we feel sex should be, you know, or that's often a program that runs. And the flip side of this, because that's great, you know, in a time and a place, and yet we're missing a whole half of the experience. We're missing the parasympathetic connection of the softness, slowing down, allowing much more sensation in and through the body. That's something that is very challenging for men, I believe. Potentially, like women, I feel generally can go more into that full body experience of orgasm and pleasure, and I know for a lot of men anyway that I talk to really struggle to even feel anything in the body, unless it's certain, like sitting in a certain place, watching a certain porn film, having a certain, you know, like it is that.
Wow.
A brother described it as once like the Davinciho Code of his orgasm, because he has to have it like or he doesn't feel any pleasure from it. And so it's expanding the thing that I work most with men around the sexuality is how can we expand our pleasure threshold? Meaning, how can we experience more pleasure on the whole range from like 0 to 10? Because let's say stroking the palm of my hand like this is level 2 of sensation and pleasure, but I can still enjoy that, you know, and feel the tingly sensual sensation in my body. Actually can feel really, really nice. And the more I breathe and make sound and drop into it, the more pleasurable it might become. It might go up to a 4 or 5. But what we're like being trained to think is it's either like 10 or it's like 0. That's what seems to happen for a lot of people, and for me. This is what happened. This is what was for me. This is what happened for me. Either I'm like having literally ejaculating, having an orgasm, and it's like 10, great, lasts for literally 2 seconds, and then it's gone, and I feel drained and I feel worse than ever. The dopamine hit spikes and then crashes, or it's 0. I'm not really feeling much, you know, or I feel completely wooden around my groin, or I feel completely like numbed out in my chest and my head, and it's anxiety you know, producing, and it's performance anxiety and all the other things that come with that. And so as we expand the pleasure threshold, what I work with people is to sit in the valley. So that would be like working at around a 7 or an 8 on the pleasure threshold. And how long can we stay in the valley of the 7 and an 8? So we're not actually ejaculating. We're not even needing to search or reach or desire the orgasm. We're literally just hanging out in the 7 and the 8 for extended periods of time. So it's like building up your energy, and maybe it's a self-love practice or something that, because I actually often offer a self-love ritual that I kind of like created over the last few years. Like it's a PDF, and I send it out to men on the courses and things that I run, and it's like a thing of like build up your energy and touch your body all over, give yourself a massage, right, or do various other things, breathing techniques, and getting the whole body involved in self-love. It's not just like your right hand and your lingam. It's like the whole body can get involved and massaging all around. And then when you get to that 7 and 8, it's like just staying there and breathing and circulating the energy using the multi cosmic orbital breath that Mantak Chia talks about in the Multi-Orgasmic Man book. And what happens in that is suddenly the 7 and the 8 then can become what used to be a 10 can then become a 7 or an 8. And suddenly you're in an orgasmic state. You're feeling like you're orgasmic and electric coursing through your body, but you're not actually ejaculating. And you're not actually getting to the point where you've lost all your energy or you've splitted out all your energy. So you can stay in there for hours and hours and hours. And this is something that I am still working on dropping more into. But I have experienced times where it's been an hour or an hour and a half of just beautiful sensation. And I'd say the number one challenge is, even like the number one challenge for me right now around this is when the mind comes back in and drops you out. So it's like I'm just learning and working on, if a mind comes in and it's like, then my thoughts go into this place of, oh, I've messed it up, or I've lost the energy now, I've you know, I've got distracted about something or other, is like to not just throw it all away and like stop. It's like you can actually slow down again and bring yourself back, and yeah. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, for sure. And what are the benefits of like expanding your pleasure in this way? You already touched it in some ways, but how would you summarize the benefits of this?
They're almost endless, the benefits, but a few key things for me is my creativity started to really come online, as I stopped wasting, because our life force, our sexual energy, is our creative energy. So if we're like ejaculating, we're losing quite a lot of life force. Now, I don't believe in being black and white. I don't think you're either like ejaculating all the time, or like you need to be
Mm.
continent and you need to never ejaculate ever again. It's like, be a monk and be celibate for the rest of your life. There's a middle way, and it's finding your rhythm with it. So once a week might feel good, once a month might feel good. It's just finding and being more sacred around the seed. So maybe it's like putting it in a chalice and giving it to the earth, or just feeling more intentional about what you're doing. That's the biggest thing that I think is really important when we're working with sexual energy. So it's working the energy around the body. So you're actually bringing blood all around your body. It's like when you do a workout, when you do cardio, your heart rate can literally increase, and you can start feeling more blood coming around the body, and you can just it's great for your muscles, it's great for your bones, it's just great for almost everything. Feel more energized. And yeah, when I started like being more intentional around my sexual energy, that's when all these creative projects just started exploding. The first year that I was working with these practices, I created and put on a theatre show, and then I've written a book, and then all this music pouring out of me, and all the, so that is the big aspect of it, is the creativity side.
This is really interesting. For me, it feels that a man who can like handle or work with his sexuality on this conscious level can do pretty much anything, or that's the association that I receive.
Cool.
That it
Yeah,
gives you a lot of empowerment, right? A lot of power, and also connection to like the new art frequencies, right?
yeah, 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 yeah,
To ascension.
yeah.
Cool. Even though I feel like it's pretty new still for men, isn't it? Because there's a lot of like the movement for women is like very like it has a great tradition, right? Or like longer tradition. You can see it almost everywhere, even online, or there are many workshops. But for men, it's not so grounded yet, right?
Yeah,
Is it? Did it change during the last years?
I think it really depends on, because we see what we only see the circles that we are in. So the circles that I'm in are like, there's so many amazing men doing this work. There's so many amazing men, and I often sit with guys who are doing these practices and things. So yeah, I couldn't say whether there's more or less for men out there, or more or less for women. you know, I couldn't say really based on what I see.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. So I noticed you are clairsentient, right? As well. Like, how did you? Because I'm clairsentient as well, or like there are many light workers who are empathic, right? Like empaths, which is not so strong, but it still can be very intense. How did you cultivate your abilities so it's not overwhelming for you? Because I expect, or I suppose that you basically can, or that's how you created your teaching, right? That you learn how to use it in positive way, or you are more focused on pleasure and this ecstatic states and like space holding. So you learn how to use your sensitivity in a positive way and how to make impact through it, right?
Yeah, for me, it's like the quote, "Where your attention goes, your energy flows." So I think it's about where am I putting my attention, and if my attention is on the other, that often leads to me being super highly sensitive or empathic with another person, and that can be very overwhelming, just like you said, and it can totally blow up my nervous system and leave me feeling drained. So
Mm.
I remember like a guy saying to me once, imagine that all your chakras are like doors and all of yours are quite open right now. Now that's great. That's wonderful that you can open your chakras. And let's try also to learn how to close them. And then he took me through an exercise. He just invited me to so people could do it now if they're listening. Can you feel your crown? Can you feel if it's open or closed? And just see if you can have that awareness of closing it and choosing when you want it to be open or closed. Choosing when you want to open and receive the messages or empathic connection with people, and also working on when you just need to close it down and rest and rejuvenate, ready to drop back into that space again. And working on the nervous system is the best thing I could suggest to people is if you want to be able to receive or transmit more energy in through your body, it's like your nervous system is the battery by which that energy comes through, and if the battery is not strong enough, you're going to get short circuited in that, and that's where I think we can get psychosis. We can really lose our mind in the space of so much energy rushing through the nervous system that it all just short circuits. And it happened to me. It was really the catalyst of my awakening, if you like. Was I had an experience of psychosis, and it was just so much energy moving through me, and I didn't know what to do with it. And I felt like I could feel everyone around me. I could feel all the pain and all the joy, and it was amazing for a few weeks. It was amazing, but what inevitably ended up happening was what goes up must come down, and gravity pulled me crashing down to earth, and I went into this experience of paranoia and real deep distress, and then came out the other side of it, thanks to a lot of support from people around me, and and then I was like, I want to go back to that space where I can feel that much joy and also like contain it. And that's where the Kundalini yoga really came into my life. It was like holding these postures for a long period of time until your arms start to shake or your body's shaking and your nervous system's shaking. But when it's shaking, it's actually strengthening. It's actually like getting stronger so that you can hold more energy and transmit it in a way that is clear.
Wow. So you even wrote a book about this, right?
This
Like
is right, yeah. I've just published this book. I've self-published a book. It's called The Big Trip: Awakening, Psychosis, or a Bit of Both is the title. And yes, it's exactly about the journey that I went on with this.
how did you overcome it? Like you said, like support of your family, right? But because I noticed, like I heard more people or more these light workers who experience these states when they were not sure if this is in the range of their sensitivity, or if it's already psychotic. They didn't know if they should search for psychologists, or like, I feel also now during these times when the wells are getting thinner and thinner, it can be like a little bit an issue, right?
Yeah, it can. It can. I would say again, where are people putting their attention at in this time? Is Are we focused on? If I was going to offer one piece of advice, it would be let go of focusing on ascending so much and start working on descending equally as much, descending into the body and embodiment
Mm.
practices and grounding. So most people have suffered a lot of trauma, and trauma really often goes straight into our lower chakras, into the sexual organs and the belly, and it's where we feel a lot of stuff, isn't it? And the root being our fear, the sacral chakra being our shame in the shadow aspect of it, like it's our shame, it's a um and guilt, and then the third chakra being about like power and greed, and so that's where a lot of our trauma is. And if we're constantly focusing on activating the upper chakras, we're not going to connect and empower the lower chakras. So when I started to work more on like descending, that was when the hypersensitivity stuff like started to fall away, and I found myself much more able to sit and be in my body and experience other people as separate beings, as opposed to like getting so drawn into everyone else's energy. And it's essentially looking at your trauma, because if we have experienced or grown up in a household where we felt fear, or we felt small, or we felt that we had to people please because our parents weren't very emotionally mature enough to express their emotions in a safe way, so it all got projected onto us, or other things like that happens, we're going to feel the trauma that gets lodged in us is that we feel that other people are our responsibility. Looking after other people or sorting out their problems is suddenly our responsibility. And one of the ways that we take that on, or a byproduct of the trauma story, it it can be that we feel that we have to process their emotions for them. It's like, okay, so you're feeling this, I'll feel it too, so we can work it through together. And my experience is that that doesn't quite help.
Mm.
It feels so. My main focus now is how can I stay centered? How can I? That's my number one priority. Before saving the world, before saving anyone, for helping anyone, my number one priority is to keep my own nervous system regulated. Because I know that if I don't, I won't be able to help anyone anyway. I'll just be part of the problem. So that's my main focus really at the moment, is aligning myself to my authenticity and my truth, and then giving it as a gift out into the space. Um, and letting go of the rescuer in me. That's the biggest thing. One of the biggest traumas for me is like feeling like I really want to rescue and people and be a savior, and like come charging in on a white horse and save the world, you know. And the more I've let go of that, the more I actually find myself really giving my gifts to the world.
Mm. Yeah, that's beautiful. I feel like you touched like a topic that is really common for so many spiritual workers and healers. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely been a big part of my journey. So thanks for such a potent question.
Yeah, yeah. I would love to ask you so many questions. Like, I have idea of 100 questions more, but I also want to honor your time.
Thank you.
So before finishing, I would love to ask you if there's something what you want to share. What more do you want to share, or any message that you want to transmit?
I want to talk about the 5 pillars of transformation that I use in the Inspiro course, and this is what helps me the most in my day-to-day life. So the first pillar is, and this is really the groundwork of it all, is awareness. And awareness allows us to notice things about ourselves that we weren't previously noticing. So it's the kind of pausing and taking a moment to drop in and ask the question of what's actually going on for me right now? And it can be done any time in the day. What's actually going on for me right now? And then from awareness, we can find a blockage or a pattern or a habit that's happening. So we've paused, we can see that pattern happening in front of us. We're about to reach out for something that we know we shouldn't, and it's happening physically in front of us. It's like, I'm about to reach out for some chocolate that I know I don't need. How can I bring awareness right now?
Mm.
The awareness might be, in this instance, I don't feel full within myself. I'm reaching out for chocolate to fill the void. So then the next pillar is breath. Using the breath to fill yourself up so that it becomes a real choice. If I still want to have chocolate, I might have a little bit, but it can still be a choice. I'm not being ruled by it. So using the breath. Is my breath shallow? Is it deep? Am I centered? And that's the second pillar. The third pillar is sound. This is just so profound for me, is to just use my voice. I've experienced so much shame around my voice, around singing, not being perfect at singing and stuff. But singing, and as it has been for so many thousands of years in tribal culture, it is just a tool for healing. You don't have to be Ed Sheeran at the peak of his career before you let your voice out and let out some sound as a healing tool. And I was talking about this the other day with someone. Ed Sheeran, he used to be told that he was tone deaf, and he just practiced and got better, like the rest of us could do if we let go of the belief that we are tone deaf. It's a
Yeah.
belief, not real. And then the fourth pillar is movement. Often our bodies want to move in a way that frees us, and we block that with our mind and with this feeling again, it's another belief system or a false identity around I can't dance, or someone told me that I'm awkward, or I feel awkward in my body. So it's letting the body move. And then the final pillar is touch. For me, sometimes when I'm feeling a lot of emotion, which is obviously what a lot of us are going through right now, just to place one hand on my heart, one hand on my belly, or just stroke my face, or just touch my legs and really give myself love, it can really see me through the day. And so you've got awareness, breath, sound, movement, touch. That's what I really want to leave with people.
It's beautiful. Sounds really powerful.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you so much for inviting me on.
Thank you so much for coming. I really enjoyed it.
Me too.